Hi everyone, it's Mandi with Global Hemp Association. I just wanted to give a shout out to all of our sponsors. It's been incredible working with each of you. Without you, we wouldn't be able to complete the projects that we have and get our seeds in the ground for this year's fiber variety trials. So thank you for everything that you've contributed. For anybody else, if you're interested in getting involved and want to contribute or sponsor, please reach out. We can make it happen.
Hello. I'm glad to be back today. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Brian, thank you so much for joining us as well. I'm excited to make this intro and chat and get to know you a little bit better. And ironically enough, we have Brian Richardson today and Brian Dickerson tomorrow. I don't know what the chances of that is, but we've got two Brians back to back, similar last names. So if you haven't already, set the reminder on LinkedIn or YouTube so it reminds you when we go live. Up at the top of the screen, there's a little bell, and let us know where you're chiming in from. Say hello. Feel free to ask questions. I feel like this is a topic today that all of us, or I shouldn't say all of us, or none of us want to talk about because, but it's something we all need. And it's a topic that comes up all the time in this industry is insurance and crop insurance and affordable crop insurance for our farmers, as this is a point. It's a pain point in trying to reduce that risk for our farmers so that we can scale acres. So Brian, I'm excited to have you. I'm excited to dive into this. I encourage anybody to ask questions or get involved, whether you're watching live or you join later on. Let us know. Later on, we'll share Brian's contact information so we make sure that you have it and are able to get in touch. But Brian, before I ramble on too much, you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and how'd you get into this, or before you started into the cannabis and hemp industry or down this rabbit hole? Let us know a little bit about, what you do, who you are.
Okay, well, again, my name is Brian. I'm the co-founder of Foundations Insurance and Financial Services. It's a business that I started with my wife, Rebecca, actually. So it's a family-owned business, and we've been around since about 2011. Before that, I've been an insurance agent pretty much my whole working life. So, I've seen my fair share of things throughout the years, and I've worked in different markets, and I'm a native to Colorado. So I was, I had my ear to the street there back in 2008, 2009, when medical marijuana kind of came to the forefront. But it just didn't seem like a right time. Everybody was, holding themselves out as a candy store or a flower shop or something like that. And I'd never wanted to get involved in that aspect of the insurance industry, just getting people paper that was required by others that was really never going to do anything. So it wasn't until maybe 2012 when of course here in Colorado we were all gearing up for Amendment 64 passing. So as soon as that happened, I mean, the writing was on the wall that really this is an industry now. And even though it's an emerging and a developing industry, it needs support. And so, I threw my hat in the ring there after, again, 10, 12 years of working with, engineers and doctors and lawyers and stuff. So I'd really switched gears to working to people with a little bit more my ilk, so to speak. I mean, I always did, I was very young when I started in this business. So I always did, feel like I was always looking up, talking to people. So now to be, a veteran of this industry and somebody who knows something about something and can help people, it's really.
You can speak the lingo now.
Yeah, I can speak the lingo now. I've got some bumps and bruises along the way, but obviously the hemp business started to kind of come around 2013. I can remember hanging out at networking events where it's me and 4 people and everybody's looking at me for seeds, and I'm like, hey, I don't have any seeds. I'm sorry. But so
once they're in the ground, I can take care of it. But
exactly. Well, I know lots of places where they can get seeds now, but somehow nobody's looking anymore from me anyway. So I've been working with this industry since before it was an industry. So it's been pretty exciting to watch it develop and watch myself develop alongside with, some of my longtime clients and so on. So it's been a good ride.
So as far as insurance goes, right, and coverage, talk to me about some of the things you've seen really change and where industry is headed. And then kind of where does insurance policy or coverage, really you're starting to see align with where industry is going.
Yeah. Well, as specific to the industrial hemp industry, I think that, it's gone from a mere fantasy to an industry pretty quickly. Of course, in the beginning, the most popular business category was the CBD producer, whether that be oil and extractors and of course the nutritional brands that are creating their own brands and making their own products, whether it be tinctures or lotions or, sleep aids or anything like that. I think the industry is certainly matured in the last few years from the days of, telling people that, hemp's going to be an integral part in, treating cancer and treating anxiety and all these things. And I think, I think a lot of people, learn some hard lessons about what you can say and what you can't say online, for instance. And I think the industry is developed into a similar spot that other nutritional products are in. They're not going to save the world, but they're going to really be a cornerstone to a healthy lifestyle. And I think making that transition from curing illnesses to just being a part of a balanced and healthy lifestyle is where the industry, as far as the product manufacturers have kind of got onto. But the hemp industry is a lot different. It's a lot more similar to other nutraceutical industries because many of the people that have brands and sell products, they don't make them, so they created a brand and they decided what they wanted to do. And maybe they thought up the original formulation, but beyond that, it's all contract manufacturers that are doing the making of the products. And so just that alone right there creates a big issue for insurance because, not only it's kind of like plumbing. Insurance is like plumbing in that it flows downhill, so to speak. So, if you thought of a brand and you're out there and you've got product on the shelf, you've got your own risks that you need to protect and insure, but then you also need to look at all these partners that you're using and make sure that they have the insurance that they need. God forbid something happen and a big lawsuit comes down, everybody gets thrown into the lawsuit. The retailer, the brand manufacturer, the contract manufacturer, everybody's going there. So that's just one of the things that I've seen that have really matured in the past few years. But obviously, then we've got this transition over to fiber and grain, which is probably the biggest one.
Right. Okay. So talk to me crop insurance, right? What's available? Something I noticed as we were reading through topics and discussion points is subsidized, or is it federally subsidized insurance? Talk to me about what does that mean? How does that support farmers? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, so I use the term subsidized a lot because that's a key term, right? And AKA,
people might understand, right?
Yeah. And so crop insurance is a lot more like flood insurance or earthquake insurance than it is anything else. Crop insurance is much different than other types of insurance policies in a few key ways. Number one, there are only 14 insurance companies on this planet that are approved to offer the federally subsidized crop insurance products. Okay. And amongst those 14 different providers, the rates, because there's a federal subsidy, the government standardizes the rates. So this is the only insurance product that you'll find where the rates amongst all the different insurance carriers are exactly the same. So, one of the only differences, of course, the service and the technology and the claims capabilities that you can get from the insurance company, but also the service that you get from somebody like me, the agent. There are a lot of things that a hemp farmer needs to do throughout the year and a lot of deadlines that they need to meet to end up with this subsidy in their pocket. So it's a game that gets played all year long as the crop is growing. But so it's different in that way. And it's also different in that there is a federal subsidy involved. The farmer does not have to bear, if they qualify for the subsidy, of course, the farmer does not have to bear the premium all on their own. But ultimately, at its core, it is insurance. It's designed to cover certain things and not others. We might get into that here in a little bit.
Yeah. So I would love to dive into that. I do have a question, though. When we talk about insurance in general, something that comes up often is this, lack of history of data for the crop, or if a farmer is new getting into it. There's this hurdle in year 1, 2, 3, to get good coverage. Talk to me about what's needed or required on that aspect for a new farmer to get coverage, or a farmer who has lost a crop 2 or 3 years in a row due to weather or incorrect planting or planting density or flood or pesticides or herbicides. Yeah, lots of reasons poor farmers are with all the risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we're trying to figure out how much insurance a farmer qualifies for, right? And this is kind of a show and tell part of this, where there's really only 3 key requirements to be able to get involved in this and receive a subsidy, and one of those is at least 1 year of successful harvesting, right? And of course, I think in the early days, hemp farmers didn't really understand that the role that these local, what they call the FSA office, the Field Service Agency, what they did, but they were really there to, so a farmer, once he's harvested, is supposed to report that production to their local FSA office. And so going back to before the industry, when these types of programs were in development, the key thing that the USDA needed from the hemp farming community was information. Those first couple of years, they really wanted to know how much was planted, how much was harvested, and so on. And so that's one of the reasons, there's only certain states and certain counties that are eligible in the United States. And a big part of the reason for that was the USDA asked for information from the hemp farming community in all these states. And if they didn't get any data back from a particular county, then that county was not made part of the program. And there's still a lot of states today where there's just no counties that are eligible simply because they didn't give them the information that they wanted. So the purpose, long answer to a short question, the purpose of a lot of that info gathering in the beginning was to try to figure out what does the average farmer produce as far as pounds per acre is how they look at it. So, and not unlike other crops, there's always going to be, in order to establish a production history, if there's only 1 year of required production, yet they want to average 4 years to come up with what a farmer qualifies for, well, there's 3 missing years, right? And so for those 3 missing years, assuming a hemp farmer only has 1 year of production, for those 3 missing years, they plug in what are called T yields. And T yields are assigned by the USDA based on the data that they got from farmers the year prior to see what the average farmer produced as far as pounds per acre. So for a farmer that only has 1 year of their own history, they get to plug in this case, if there's only 1 year of history, they get to plug in 3 years of these county averages to come up with, hey, how much do I qualify for?
What counties or regions are you finding to be more successful in coverage and collecting that data? Like, where are you seeing good coverage going out, and just region wise?
Yeah, from my perspective, most of the people that I end up talking to and most of the ones that seem to be interested in this are from Colorado, my home state, and Oregon. Okay. Colorado and Oregon seem to be, I think it just, they're pretty much the 2 most mature, hemp programs out there. So naturally, they would be kind of the furthest along. But, many states are out there. Many states are eligible. Many counties are eligible. It's just where that energy is coming from and where's most of the activity coming from. And, and that's kind of what I see so far. I hear a lot about Texas. But most of the people that are actually coming to me for information and for insurance are from Colorado and Oregon.
We can't leave out Montana. Montana's crushing it.
Montana's crushing it. I know a guy up there who's actually a CPA who's now up there growing. He's from Montana, but yeah, so Montana and also Kansas. I don't know why nobody paid attention to Kansas. Almost every single county in Kansas is eligible for crop insurance. And yet I've never heard from anybody in Kansas.
Yeah, there's lots going on in Kansas. Well, and there's some great representation. My understanding is, everywhere in Kansas is eligible for crop insurance. Unlike someone else told me that. Kelly Ripple told me that. Yeah. So same. There's lots going on down there. There's lots of farming. I'm excited to see, there was a map that came out just recently with the fiber report from Julie Lerner and Pan Exchange. Seth Boone and her did a fabulous report that they put out that kind of mapped out where processors were. And it's exciting to see the map. It's definitely growing. I think they said there were 20 on, and I don't know, I think we're looking at like 50, projected over the next couple of years. So we'll see. It'll be nice. It'll be fun to see the growth. Okay, so talk to me about, how much coverage can farmers get? We kind of talked about this. What is it? Where is it comparable to other crops? Where are you seeing as far as cost?
Well, so there's a few metrics that are set by the USDA, and one of those is, of course, the T yields. And the other one is the average price per pound. So when you're buying crop insurance, it's based on their pricing, not necessarily ours. So of course there's different practice types from organic to irrigated, non-irrigated, whether they're using transplants or whether they're planting direct from seed, whether they're harvesting the whole plant or just the floral aspect for CBD, or so there's all kinds of different, prices that you can get based on the end use and the farming type. Okay. So I think the last time I saw, the CBD is, for transplant floral only, we're talking, under $3 a pound for that, and closer to, $1.70 a pound for fiber and grain. So those are the kind of prices we're looking at. Of course,
for coverage.
Well, yeah, as far as what they've set the prices for, not necessarily for coverage, but what they've set the price. So a farmer says,
for sale.
Yeah, for sale. Yeah. So a farmer says, I'm growing 100 acres of hemp for CBD, and my, the yield that I've come up with that I'm going to be eligible for example, let's say it's a low average, 1,000 pounds per acre. So 1,000 pounds per acre and 100 acres, right? So that's our total. And then, multiplied by the price that we're looking at and how much coverage you elect, a farmer can get coverage for anywhere from 50 to 75% of the value of their crop.
Okay. So I of course am trying to compute on the fiber side, interested in coverage, especially as acres are growing, and the profit margin is so much smaller, right, on the fiber side or fiber and grain side. And so making sure insurance is one, good coverage and affordable, right, for our farmers, because this exorbitant fee that's added on just for them to become hemp farmers. So I'll give a real quick plug to the hemp exemption. Go out and support hemp exemption. I'll share the link here in just a second. I'll pull it up while Brian's talking, but really with the goal of separating the fiber and grain from the cannabinoid production to help in policy. Brian, how does policy change affect insurance coverage?
Not really. Not really at all. No, it's going to come down to, like any other insurance where it's similar, is that it is a risk pool. So one of the reasons why the government subsidizes it and helps the farmer pay the premium is because they know that the more participation that they can get from farmers, the better, the more healthy the risk pool is in those really bad years where a lot of crops fail due to a large weather event or something like that. So they're really trying to do whatever they can to get the word out there and get participation. But honestly, I'm just not seeing the hemp industry kind of follow along with that. Part of the challenge is, the first deadline, which is what they call the sales closing date. And this is the last day that you can sign an application and submit it. And that's March 15th, which is obviously right around the corner. Well, especially kind of in the early days, I don't even think people decided whether they were going to plant by March 15th. Some people are deciding in April and even early May whether they're going to do it. So they go from deciding to do it to doing it in a very short period of time. Whereas, that can cause a lot of problems, right? So that's why the crop insurance industry sets this deadline to apply, because they're trying to kind of remove the adverse selection out of it and the people that already are having problems. So, I think that they're just looking to ensure the people that are the most prepared and organized and have the best plan at the right time.
Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about pitfalls, you kind of went over some of those and some things that we need to do to avoid all of those pitfalls. Talk to me too about what you see in our industry and what we really need to do to advance. And you kind of mentioned one earlier that it's almost like we're behind a little bit. We, jump the gun on developing a business or focusing on things that other industries may not need to be focusing on, and they're not putting some of the fundamentals like insurance into place.
Well, I mean, there's of course, there's a few key pitfalls. I mean, I think one of the worst ones that I see is somebody will successfully plant and maybe they'll even get insurance and all that, but then they'll miss in July the 15th is the acreage is really the planting, the deadline to submit. Like, you first submit a planting report that says what you're going to do, right? Well, July 15th, there's a report due that says what you actually did. And I've seen people just frankly just not respond, not file that report. And when you don't file a report and meet these deadlines, you don't get the subsidy. So the worst case scenario is that you've signed up for an insurance policy that's going to cost you 15 cents on the dollar, and then you don't qualify for the subsidy, which brings the cost down to affordable levels. And so, and just because you don't qualify for the subsidy doesn't mean you don't have to pay for that insurance policy. So once you've bought an insurance policy and you're in it, they will send you a bill. And if you don't pay it, there's going to be, obviously a lot of problems down the road. So that's really, one of the worst things I see. But it's really just a matter of, people missing this initial date, which is why I'm, really out there trying to push so that everybody knows exactly what needs to happen by when, so that we can try to get some more participation going. But just missing these deadlines is another key thing. Another common pitfall, I think, is just using people that are supposed experts. All right. I've never seen anything like it in this industry where anybody who's ever sprouted a seed in the past is all of a sudden some kind of a grow consultant, so you've got everything from fertilizer to nutrients to yield and consultants and all this stuff. And frankly, most of these people, they don't have any insurance. And, when you hire somebody to tell you how to grow a crop and they don't know how to grow a crop, and if they don't have, insurance, they don't have professional liability insurance, to cover the recipes and what they're telling people to do, then, I've seen a lot of really bad partnerships go down there just because whatever. I mean, somebody, the harvester, I've seen, harvesters and where their new custom design machines destroy the plant as they're harvesting it. Well, if you don't have a contract that says with that harvester that if they destroy your plant while they're harvesting it, that they're going to pay for it, or
other way around, that the plant destroys the harvester. I mean, we've seen that lots, right? That there's, and it's hard because there's a lot of like, oh, we should have done this, should have done that, or, you didn't know. But equally as much, there's a lot of unknown, right? There are how many regions and how many climates and how many opportunities to need a different SOP for farmers. And so the risk there really is a lot of risk right now at this time, trying to figure out what is right. And yeah, it's interesting. Randy had a question. He said the organic hemp grain price is in the $1.15 to $1.30 range. Fiber would be based per ton. What was the 170 for grain fiber quoted? Great topic today. Hi, Randy. By the way, it's good to see you.
Well, and so just so you know, I'm not looking at my computer, and I'm that $1.70 that I just said, that was kind of out of my mind because it's an example. A week or so I was looking at it and it was like $2.70 for the transplant floral CBD. And as I was looking at the other end uses, I thought that I saw that that fiber and grain was in there. So don't quote me on that, but it's still, it all depends on where you are, right? I mean, for anybody who's interested in knowing exactly what these numbers are for them, I'm happy to have a conversation, and I can look up while we're on the phone. I can look up on the The RMA is called the Risk Management Agency, and it's an arm of the USDA that's responsible for the crop insurance program. So the RMA has a website that will give you all of this actuarial info, prices and the yields and historical data and eligibility and all those things. So, that's kind of the point here is if anybody's interested in knowing exactly what the specifics are for their county, we can get into that. I think you might be on mute.
Sorry, my dog's in the room whining, and here I am muting myself. Do you want to share your contact information? I shared it down on the screen, but for anybody that's just listening now or maybe later on a podcast.
Yeah, obviously my email's there. My phone number is 303-974-6983. And then you would just hit option 1 2 times. And that's how you get to me.
And then the email is foundationsifs.com for those that are listening and don't see it on the screen. But yeah, what a great tool. The tool you were just talking about to show those numbers through the USDA. That's great.
Yeah.
Great way for
and I can also and that's the same tool that you use to estimate the cost of the insurance. So again, in the same session, I can answer questions about historical yields or prices or, insurance costs based on, of course, these estimated factors.
Awesome. Okay. So where do you see opportunity really moving forward, for people to protect themselves, for people to avoid pitfalls? Where as the industry is changing and really shifting, we talk, and like you said, you've seen a lot of CBD coverage, a lot of discussion, and we have yields historically on CBD and less on the grain and fiber side, at least in some parts of our country. So yeah, where do you see real opportunity?
I think I obviously is specific to crop insurance. One of the most difficult qualifications for people is that a lot of hemp farmers are planting without knowing where they're going to sell the harvest, right? Mm-hmm. In particular on the CBD side. So one of the biggest hurdles to getting the subsidy, to qualifying for this insurance, is that they have a processor's contract, right? And that processor's contract is a promise to buy 100% of the harvest and it doesn't have to specify the price necessarily, but it does need to have a formula in it to which you can derive a price. So whether that's, CBD content or just what have you, whatever metrics that are there. So that's a big problem. So now we've got these processors. They've spent a lot of money. They've built equipment and so on. And so they're ready to process. And so now you've got processors that are looking for material. Well, that's a good opportunity because we're going from CBD producers that don't have any idea where they're going to sell this harvest, which is again the factor that kicks you out, to the fiber side where the processors are begging for material. So I'm not a hemp farmer, but it seems like that go where the market's going. I think the CBD industry will slowly continue, hopefully, to grow and to, so that if these prices on CBD products come out, then they'll need more material. But really, again, I see the future in this, the fiber side, honestly.
Well, it was kind of good to hear just now because I see more and more farmers with contracts for hemp, right? And all of these processors that are begging farmers. And if they can say, listen, we can help subsidize or get better insurance coverage for our farmers with these contracts. Farmers also are looking for contracts. So I think it's this win-win opportunity or a tool to bring to the table when you're discussing converting acres over to hemp or scaling acres from, corn and soybean or wheat or anything else. So
yeah.
pretty cool. Pretty cool. Well, anything else you want to add? How do people, we talked about how people get in touch with you. Are you going to be at NOCO?
I'm not going to be at NOCO, and although I'm kind of frustrated about that because the bottom line is, NOCO's happening after the sales closing date, so that's the other thing that I'd kind of like to key in with the hemp industry is to coordinate these dates with these types of events, because again, if you're trying to talk about what you're gonna do in late March and early April, you're too late. So it's a good place for people to go, and it's a good place for the.
Well, that's where Southern Hemp Expo becomes powerful, right? Or some of these others, regional farm events. All these processors have been hosting like information events, farm events, where they bring their farmers together and answer all these questions and talk about what's working and what genetics and what contracts look like, because those are happening. I think that, and then Southern Hemp Expos at the end of the year. So that kind of opens opportunity for when our farmers or processors going to be looking for acres. What do they need as far as scale for next year or the following year? But there's a lot of farmers too that don't plan until now, which is tricky. If they're up in Montana, they're not planning really until now what they're putting in for the year. And so, yeah,
I think one of the best things that I think I can do for people in these early stages is have a conversation with them about how you qualify for this. And a lot of people are not going to qualify for this year because of these things. They don't have a plan, they don't have a contract, what have you. Next year comes real fast, right? So I think the best thing that somebody could do is get their ducks in a row for next year, and whether that be, identify who you're going to be growing for, get some solid relationships, some solid contracts, obviously figuring out where you're going to plant. One thing that I should mention, another huge qualification piece is a rotation requirement. Hemp has a rotation requirement where you cannot plant hemp in the same dirt that you planted hemp in last year, and other things, and other things too, rapeseed and canola, and there's a whole list of crops that hemp cannot follow. So again, I think for somebody to know exactly what.
Get that?
Yeah.
I would love to share that. Maybe what we should do is write something up and share those types of links, along with your insurance, share your contact info if we want to put this together. But I think that kind of stuff is very valuable to know, again, what tools are in our toolbox as we're talking to farmers for resources to reduce the cost and mitigate some of the risk for them. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a work in progress. And I think, I think that the USDA and the insurance industry is frankly quite confused because in the past 3 years, the program has gotten worse every year, not better. So that's not good because they don't understand that. They think that over the years, participation is supposed to increase and not decrease. And so they're frankly kind of all scratching their heads, which is why there's been no innovation. It's kind of good news, bad news. It's the exact same qualification and coverages that were available in 2020. And that's simply because the industry in their mind hasn't progressed. So they're not spending a lot of time and resources to make changes to the crop insurance program. So I think this year and next year is, I think, a really good year for the industry to kind of get serious as far as this goes and start, because the risk management agency, they're designing the crop and they're designing the hemp program around what they've experienced in other crops. So the idea, the reality is that while at its core, hemp is just another crop that, that you can grow and sell. the market is much, much, much different, and it's much more challenging in almost every way than corn or soybeans or something they just have a lot of experience with, which is why, I mean, they're still trying to figure out why anybody would plant anything without having it sold. Yeah. So, simple kind of stuff like that. So I think, I think with a good successful year this year and planning for next, that's where, we can make some things happen.
Make some noise now. Well, I appreciate it, Brian. I'd love for us to stay in touch and continue to be at the forefront of the conversation, because I do anticipate industry to scale, but I also anticipate this year still to be very small. And so we know more processors are coming online and more acres are going to be sought after throughout the year. And so really being in touch. I am fortunate, or I think that we're, moving away from growing without contract, like you said, which is refreshing, because that was a huge pain point in the cannabinoid market that you just don't see as much in the fiber industry, in the fiber market. So I'm thankful for that that it is definitely moving in a better direction. Well, anybody else you want to give a shout out to? Anyone that you're working with that's doing great things that maybe we should be aware of, or who they are? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Wow. Well, they probably wouldn't mind me mentioning their name, since they put a Facebook post to say they're looking for material, but Global Fiber Processing here in Colorado is looking for farmers. So any farmers want to sell their stuff, you guys need to be talking to Melissa at Global Fiber Processing.
Yes, they're awesome. In fact, they're a great corporate member of ours. And so shout out to them and our other corporate members. They've been fabulous. It's fun to see the industry coming along, evolving, right? These processors are both looking to scale acres and really move product into market at much larger scale. So it's pretty exciting. Good. So I hope that we see lots of acres. There's lots of good things going on in Colorado, lots of building projects, lots of demand being developed. Shout out also to the news that I saw with Global Fiber and working with Nebraska University on the hemp block. That was very exciting. So for those of you that don't know, like you said, Brian, reach out to Melissa over at Global Fiber, or Corbett or Andrew or anybody over there on their team. They're fabulous. Well, Brian, thank you very, very much. We have another interview at the same time, 10 a.m. tomorrow, Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. We stream live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch. So if you're on any of those, please let us know, say hello, share the content, help us get the word out. There's close to 400 interviews now that we've done. We're getting caught up and getting more published over this next couple of weeks that we've done over the last month or two. So keep your eye out if you've missed any of those. But other than that, you guys, we'd love to have your support. We'd love to have you join us at the association or on our seed trials. If you're going to be in NOCO, we would love to connect with you. We're going to be doing a presentation on Friday about our trial data and introducing some of our sponsors that utilize the data, as well as our team that helped put the project together and collect some of the research. So I'm excited to share some of the data we found there, and it was fun going into it. It's kind of ironic how things work out, but we'll see everybody tomorrow. Brian, thank you very, very much. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if there's anything I can do. I'd love to continue to connect you and help drive business. So shout out if there's anything that comes up or anybody I can help you out with. Cool.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Hi, Steve. By the way, it's good to see you. I see you're listening. But thank you, guys. Okay, we'll see you guys later.